Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I must say, I think that we are making sit-down video history on the Will's Camera YouTube channel today in terms of quality. I have not only a microphone, Cut the Cameras podcast, shameless plug, but a ring light, a laptop, a desk, a mirror, a viewfinder. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Will. I am, well, by the time you're watching this, I'm an 18-year-old, but I am an American who moved to Germany in August 2019 and then recently the Netherlands. I've decided to compile just a master list of more so like ideas, thoughts, concepts, takeaways that I've had from my entire experience abroad from August 2019 to now. So I've been living in Europe or abroad for more than 3 years and traveling a bunch, and I just want to say, disclaimer, this is my experience. Majority of that knowledge is being based on living in Germany and the Netherlands specifically. I'm definitely not trying to generalize the entire continent of Europe and all the places within it, nor am I trying to generalize all of the US, but this is my takeaways. So approach them with an open mind and open hearts. So my first and biggest takeaway that I have thought about a lot is that I actually really love the language barrier, which may sound funny because it was one of my biggest anxieties moving to Germany is I didn't speak German, and you know how Germans can be. And I was worried that it was going to be hard to interact on a daily basis, make friends, navigate tricky situations. And although those are all valid, and I did have experiences where that could be applied, overall, when I made friends in Germany whose first language was German and my first language was English, and we were speaking a Denglish kind of dialect with each other, I felt that the absence of like English or German fluency allowed for such real, genuine conversations, if that makes sense. Because it's so much harder to like sugarcoat something or beat around the bush if you genuinely don't have the vocabulary to communicate it. And also, sometimes, guys, I can't with the like TikTok talking. If you know what I mean, like the way that Gen Z talks sometimes on the internet, like they do be doing it. That's cap. This game's strong. I can't. Okay, it's fine. I don't want to make a big deal, but I would prefer to have conversations that are a bit more genuine, and I really would appreciate when friends would say things to me that were just so in its true form. If they're trying to communicate something, they have to strip this idea down to their vocabulary, which is just like the most basic form. I have some examples. A handyman was here earlier today. He came up to me, and obviously Dutch is his first language, so he comes up and he goes, "Hi Will, how does the world greet you today?" And I like that question. How does the world greet you today? And first of all, that's like incredible English. I'm not trying to say that the language barrier makes people say things in their second language in like a dumb way or like a less valid way, but it was more so like that meant more to me saying, "How does the world greet you today?" than like, "How you doing?" Yeah, I don't know. I just think I just like it. And then when I was back visiting Germany in the spring, a friend of mine who I hadn't really known that long, German was her first language, she wrote me something and it ended with like, "Will, I'm so excited to see you, you can't even imagine." I don't know. Do I sound stupid? Do I sound silly? I just think it's sweet. And if you've had conversations in a second language or with someone who's speaking in a second language, I would love to know if you had the same experience, because for me, I feel that sometimes that barrier allowed for me to just say things more simply and honestly. You know, when you're trying to decipher what someone's saying, maybe it makes you more present in the moment, and that's what it is. Like you're really listening to them and trying to understand what they're saying. I've also realized that the world is so big, but so small. And I'm thinking about this through kind of a globalization lens. I think about how I've been really lucky to travel over the continent of Europe really during this time. There's only a few places, a few countries I haven't yet been to, and how accessible that is with public transport. Like that's what I mean. The world is so small, Europe's small, but the world is so small where it's like I can so easily and accessibly be somewhere completely different from where I am now in a matter of hours. But it's so big in the way that it's like, oh my god, I've done all this traveling, I've had all of these like cultural, interesting experiences, and there are so many places I haven't seen. So yeah, this role of globalization was really interesting to see it firsthand, especially through social media. In Istanbul, I was getting on the ferry and I saw these two Turkish girls singing a song by Lizzo. What was it? The work can't work with speed, no baby, I'm not holding it, oh baby. It wasn't that good, but they were singing it. And they were singing a Nicki Minaj, it's the new style. You guys know, come on. Like, it makes sense that they're being listened to all around the world, but it's interesting just to be like, I know who that is, I know that song. Like, there's a connection. Yeah, I'm over here from, northern Colorado, the Netherlands. You're over here from Istanbul, and I could know all the words of the song you're singing. It's so interesting. Again, the world is small. But that being said, the US is so big. This is something I've also realized, which contributes to the idea that the world is so big. If you're driving for, 10 hours in Europe, you can go through so many different languages, many cultures and people and religions. Like, there's a lot because Europe is so tight and condensed. But if you're driving for 10 hours in the US, you could be in the same state. You can drive 10 hours through Colorado, I'm pretty sure. And it depends where you go. There are going to be places in the States where you can drive through and it will be much more, diverse. But overall, the national language is still going to be English. You're still going to be under US law and you're still going to have the US culture. So yeah, to sum up, the world is very big and the world is very small. This was one of my first kind of German culture shocks when I started to make German friends when I moved to Germany, is the dynamic between parents and children, I feel, is very different than the US. I felt like the kids sometimes were like adapting to the parents' lifestyle, when in the States, I think the adult or the parent really adapts to their kids' lifestyle and kind of makes their life revolve around whatever the kid's up to. But I noticed in some ways that it was kind of the opposite. I found that my friends who were 15, 16 at the time would be left alone for, 4 or 5 days while their parents went on a holiday, on vacation, and they would just be alone in the house. And then when I was back in Colorado over the summer, our Portuguese friends came over who live in Colorado, and their mom was talking about how in the States, she was so surprised to see that there would usually be like a kids table and an adults table at gatherings. They'd set up a kids table, which is very normal for me, and the kids would have like microwave hot dogs or spaghetti, kids food. The adults would have, whatever the meal adults are having. And she was so not about it. She's like, right off the bat, you're just telling your kids that they're not as important or that they don't deserve to eat your dry, unseasoned white person chicken. But I thought it was a good point, and maybe she's reading into it a lot, but it is interesting that it's like, maybe kids are going to grow up in the States having trouble socializing with adults. I know I did until I moved here, and I feel much better at it now. But then adults also don't know how to react with children, and I can tell you for sure that I've had some weird ass experiences in the States with adults trying to talk to me. Please don't. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I thought that was interesting because I've never been somewhere with a kids table in Europe. Yeah, that must be weird because I moved before I had the official transition to the adults table. That probably would have been really awkward. And it's also like, what age do the kids stay at the kids table until? Because that's going to be weird if you're having like a 16-year-old with the toddlers. But then if you move just the 16-year-old to the adult table, then that's weird because again, they don't know how to socialize. All right, guys, canceling the kids' tables. You heard it here first. I feel like every time I go back to the States, and then also when I arrive back in Europe, it's always like a social experiment for me. Like, I always am taking little notes in my head the whole time, and then I'm like, all right, let's see if there's any reverse culture shocks when I come back to Europe. And this one's gonna be kind of hard to put. I don't know how to say this, but again, like, it's like a social thing in the States that I've realized where maybe it's like not being able to handle silence. But think about it. Think if you're in America right now, or if you've lived in America, think about like, I think about like a teacher or someone who you're asking for help, not having an internal monologue because they're saying everything. Like, oh yeah, let me just help you and I'll find this right over here. Okay, so, if I come over this, oh, not that, oh, maybe if I go over here, da 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 da. Do you understand? Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, sorry, let me just scoot by you over here. Like, that's the one. Oh, pardon me. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think my point is more just like, only say something if you have something to say. Like, if we're not actively talking, you don't need to like fill a silence. You don't need to say something, or you don't need to like mumble to yourself. Like, only say something if you have something to say. And maybe it's all connected. Things like the kids' table leading people not to be able to socialize. If we were all just genuine, we wouldn't run into as many awkward silences because we'd know how to communicate genuinely. Is that full circle, or am I just repeating what I'm saying? All right, clothing. Let's talk about it. There's a lot that could be said, but I'm gonna try and go with kind of more of an overall type view here. Europe, less clothes, better quality. Stereotypically, maybe Gen Z is kind of, you know, breaking down all these cultural indifferences because of the role of globalization in social media. More traditionally, my friends even, I think, have a much more condensed, smaller wardrobe with higher quality pieces and kind of basics for the most part. And that's why I think Americans have this illusion that Europeans are so well dressed. It's just because they can throw on almost any article of their clothing and it's gonna look good because they're all of good quality. But also, gym clothes are a huge thing. I haven't talked about this ever anywhere on my social media, and I have no idea why, because American fashion, or, well, if you want to call it that, in high school at least, when I left, it was the lululemon leggings and like a jumper, sweater. It was, and it is. I see it. I see it when I go back. And it's not to go to the gym, it's wearing athletic clothes everywhere. Wearing athletic clothes in non-athletic setting. Not a thing here, never seen it. Never seen it except for on my mom, and every time that my mom wears leggings out or anytime that she's wearing sports clothing, people are very surprised and she'll get many questions. At the supermarket just the other day, they asked my mom if she was going to exercise like 3 times. Why the leggings? I get that they're probably comfortable. They probably are, I understand. But it is so crazy because it's so much in the States and never in Europe. And then while we're on the topic of exercise, that's also kind of a big difference. I feel that in Europe, it's just kind of like regular activity is exercise. You just see people walking on a regular basis. In the Netherlands, everyone's biking all the time. I saw a mom today on the bus, 4 kids. 4 kids, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And then you even see people who are of much older ages walking through town, doing fine, getting their groceries. But yeah, I think that regular activity on a regular basis is just like their exercise, but it's not thought of as exercise because it's not for the point of working out. Meanwhile, there's kind of that like gym bro mentality in the States where it's like designating time to the idea of exercise or working out or getting your heart rate up or whatever. Topic is toilets because there's shit to say about them. Okay, I'm so sorry. In Europe, you gotta pay for the public toilets. Come on, man. You gotta pay for the toilets and stations. I'm already paying for my train ticket. I'm already paying for my bus card. Let me pee without paying 70 cents. But then like healthcare is free, so. But that being said, there's also a lot of like public toilets, which I've never seen in the US. And I mean like you're walking in the street of Amsterdam and there's a urinal on the street. In Paris, there's what you may think is a plant in a planter, but as you approach, you realize that it is in fact a place where one can urinate. That being said, American toilets, free, but so wasteful. There is so much water in there. I was talking to my friend Issa the other day, and she actually brought this up, and she goes, "Splashback Mary, girl." For real. There is way too much water in there. Why? They don't need that much water. Everything's bigger in the US, I guess. Even the ratio of water to toilet bowl. Something that is definitely much more prominent in some places than others, both in Europe and the US, is this idea of like work-life balance. I really have enjoyed seeing people like at cafes, not everyone's like working, doing things for pleasure rather than for like a purpose. I don't know. I think of going to a cafe in the US and everyone's there with their laptop or a notebook. And here people will just spend the whole afternoon with their friends, or they'll go out to 4-hour lunches. But yeah, that being said, I'm also a high school student, so I don't have the best sense of a work-life balance, or I haven't had enough experience, but it has been interesting. It's refreshing. And my final big overall learning from all of this is just learning to welcome change, and the idea that, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the hardest decisions to make are often the most rewarding. I think that that's true. And because of some of those decisions, I'm so grateful to have a mindset that's made up of kind of this melting pot of ideas and beliefs and personality traits and concepts from all these people from all these different backgrounds, and I'm really lucky to have been exposed to that. It's quite a gift and a privilege. I've also realized that you don't have to go far in order to diversify your mindset, and I would encourage any of you, even if you're living in the same town that you've grown up in your entire life, or if you're planning to move abroad, I would just encourage you to reach out to people who differ from you in some way. Someone that you can learn from, someone who's had an interesting experience or something that you want to hear more about, or believes something different than you, someone that you disagree with maybe even. Like, I think that there's a lot that can be learned just from other people's existence. And yeah, with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all learned something, or if there's anything that you have to add from your own experiences, comment it down below. I'm excited, I'll read it, I'll respond to it. And if you guys like this kind of podcast style video, you can check out my actual podcast. The link's in the description. It's called Cut the Cameras Podcast on all major streaming platforms. And new episodes are every Wednesday, and it's so fun. I love it so much, and I would appreciate your guys' support as I get it started. Thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.